Yeah, I think the most obvious one is the tariff situation, right? And not really having much certainty or clarity on exactly what that impact is going to be. So on the one hand, that's certainly a curveball. It could also possibly impact supply chain, although I'm not real. I don't. If I were betting, I don't think it will. I think if anything, it's going to create a fluctuation in asset pricing. And then there's this other part of me that feels like, well, what else is new, right? Our industry is always kind of facing those kinds of challenges with regards to constantly changing prices in that field, and it's very challenging to manage a budget. But there are certainly some tools and some things you can do to get out in front of that to try to mitigate those issues. So, but that's the one I would say is kind of the big one that on January 1st, nobody was expecting, right? Let's put it that way.
I think one of the biggest challenges is a lot of the fleets that we currently work with, some of our prospects, they have so many systems that do similar things, but that data is just kind of scattered, right? So that's kind of our goal, is being that central hub for all of that data, whether it's telematics, fuel, finance, HR, your ERPs. We really like to bring everything together, get everybody working out of one central space. So that way they have access and ease of reporting, getting that data to make better informed decisions.
One of the things that we're noticing is the clunkiness associated with keys, physical keys. And so what we have been able to do is leverage our deep experience in automotive technology by bringing an end-to-end solution that's comprised of a hardware component, a cloud component, connectivity, and a dashboard. And what we're able to do is allow fleet owners and operators to basically assign vehicle access through the cloud without having to use a physical key.
Probably the most obvious one early days was the complexity of the charging experience. And you hear a lot about range anxiety and you hear a lot about charger availability and things, but a lot of our customers were coming to us and saying, I can't have my drivers carry multiple apps or multiple cards, because as a business owner or a fleet manager, what that means to me is multiple invoices or multiple credit lines or multiple data sets. I need to bring all that information into a central location, or multiple interfaces when my employees inevitably lose a card. I've got to go somewhere. So that complexity for a business owner or a fleet manager was something that was a little bit surprising. It wasn't as straightforward as buy a battery electric vehicle and use the tools that you have today. It requires a new toolkit.
Yeah, I mean, the key to that there is really centered around analytics and AI and identifying those trends, right? So, most folks unfortunately use their fleet software as like a digital filing cabinet, and they're just kind of storing all of the information and they're making sure they're compliant. But the best software out there provides you an analytics platform, truly BI, right? Business intelligence, that allows you to not only monitor trends, but predict future outcomes on those trends so that you can prepare for that. So the simple and the obvious ones are always like replacement planning. But, certainly predictive maintenance is a thing that at this point you should be doing in all likelihood, because, the data is there and available for you to, even without buying an additional software, if you're using an FMIS, you can recognize mean time to failures and things of that nature. So that's what we're very much focused on, providing an analytics platform that's very easy to use, that doesn't require a true data scientist to use it, but then also that alerts you to what's going on, so that you can kind of just trust the system to kind of be your flashboard to say, hey, problem over here, go check that out. And so that's what we're trying to help folks do.
I think one of the biggest thing and one of the things that costs the most is time, right? So our biggest thing is we're trying to save all of our fleet's time. So getting the data out of the system, making sure that, when you go with the system, you just want 1 or 2 clicks on every view or every page that you're going to, right? The data should be there, should be accessible. And I think that's really what we're doing at Collective Data. We're making it easy for these fleet managers to have all their data in one place, but also be able to extract it with ease.
The ability for this solution to help the fleet owners and operators allows them to manage their dispatching activity in advance. They don't have to worry about keys that are lost or stolen or misplaced. And it helps them manage also governance in terms of ensuring that the right driver has the right vehicle and can access it at the right time.
Strategic fleet replacement planning. They're too short-term minded in thinking about replacement. Folks should be looking 20 years out. They should be modeling that. Again, our software and other softwares out there can help you with that. But that's something you should be doing, even if you're just doing it in Excel, right? You should be looking out, you should be modeling your funding, modeling your financing needs. And as we mentioned earlier, like with tariffs, you can mitigate a lot of those problems simply by being out in front. And the same would have been true back and the last supply chain issue we had during COVID. If you had a strong, solid replacement program, you did not get hit as hard by the supply chain disruption as the folks who didn't. So that's a big one. Strategic fleet replacement planning. There are techniques around that. There are softwares like ours that will help you with that. You need to be leveraging that. The other one I would say is that really folks don't always use very well is cost allocation and chargeback systems. They use it and they're just trying to break even, and they're just kind of going through the flow instead of using it to develop some predictive analytics around where costs are going, where are the trends, and also to mitigate behavior of their operators. So I could go on for days about that one, but I'll pause there. But those are the two tools. I start with fleet replacement. If you have a good fleet replacement program, you're gonna solve 80% of your fleet's problems right there. So if you're not doing that, go out and do it today. I'm not talking about what are we gonna replace next year or the year after. I mean, really forward-looking. If it's not at least 10 years, it's not long enough.
I think how fleets are going about replacing vehicles and replacing assets in their fleet has really changed throughout the years, right? Some, may just be running them into the ground, or that was kind of the thing, we're going to run this vehicle until it breaks. Well, I think, with having all this data, with, the new age of technology, it makes it much easier to kind of see where your fleet is at. So, you might get a 2025 and it might be in the shop 2-3 times a month. That's probably not a vehicle that we want to keep around for a very long time, because it's just going to end up costing us more and more. So our asset replacement model really helps and automatically tracks all of that for our clients. I think that that's something that every fleet manager should have some sort of, kind of replacement scorecard almost. And then secondly is, I really think we could have a lot more of our clients using our automatic notifications. They have the ability to set those up inside of our system, and you can create as many as you would like. So I think that really helps, kind of keep you alert and on top of everything that's going on inside of your operation.
I believe most of the fleet owners and operators are looking to provide a seamless solution to help their fleet management system, ones that can automate their back office workflows and really help them enable the application of their protocols with the least amount of effort and paperwork as possible.
Well, I think what's happening, and we mentioned the tariffs at the top, but the tariffs are really just contributing to already an ongoing trend, which is an exponential growth in asset costs. And a big part of that reason, a big reason for that is all the additional technology that keeps getting put into those assets. Obviously EVs and other things, but all the safety technology, the cams, everyone knows sort of these technology trends. And what's happening is vehicles are getting more expensive at a pace faster than the inflation of other goods, right? And so that's coming. And so where fleet managers are going to be hard pressed is, as always, but even more so is, am I making good use of my resources? Am I being resource efficient? And you're going to need to be able to prove that. And you're going to need to be able to tell that story with data. So I think there's going to be a lot of solutions around it. I think it's going to be more right-sizing studies than ever before and that sort of a thing. More pressure to make sure you have the right fleet. But I think one trend that we're going to see grow here is a major adoption towards pooling and motor pooling. A lot of fleets are already out there doing that. It's kind of their bread and butter. But the majority of fleets, poodling, and maybe they have a loaner asset system or something. They're not truly doing a sophisticated motor pool management. Motor pools are really probably the best way to drive efficiency of your fleet's utilization. And so I'm expecting to see kind of an upward trend that more and more fleets adopt that approach to providing additional assets to the fleet, to their users.
Yeah, so I think obviously the EV trend is probably the biggest one, right? A lot of fleets are moving, or just a lot of people in general are moving to EVs. It's a whole new data set, so I think it's all very new to everybody. Nice thing about, collected data is we are an extremely flexible system when it comes to, adding new fields, new objects, new views inside the system to gather all of that data. And to go right alongside with that, I think AI. Being able to feed AI, all of the data inside the system, help you make those informed decisions, like when to replace vehicles, when to replace assets in your fleet. So I think that those are going to be the two biggest trends, as we move from, 2025 to 2026, and then of course, down the road as well.
The areas that we see of being of interest for 2025 include maximizing the vehicle utilization, minimizing downtime, a lot on preventative maintenance, making sure that the vehicles are roadworthy and safe. And so the trends to be able to predict the maintenance and then ultimately be able to schedule the work while maintaining security, safety, compliance, Those seem to be things that are really resonating with a lot of fleet owners and operators today.
The obvious one is that technology will continue to evolve, it will improve, and we're seeing great leaps and bounds in battery technology. The infrastructure will continue to improve. So when we talked about the right use cases, more use cases will open up. So more opportunity will become available to convert vehicles to battery electric from internal combustion. We at WEX don't see an immediate future where it's all battery electric vehicles. We also don't see one where it's all internal combustion. We see a mixed fleet future for the foreseeable future.